Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLuga. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Wednesday, February 5th. So, Jaguars. We have a new GM candidate, general manager candidate for the Jaguars. A wide sweeping search that the Jaguars are kind of putting together with this general manager search. And then we've also got the Cooper Kupp trade idea that a lot of folks are talking about. Cooper Kupp, the Rams are looking to move on from him. They're looking to trade him. So that's something to keep in mind. Obviously, there's obvious connections, and it's not just folks in Jacksonville talking about the Jaguars maybe being a fit. You've seen it around the web a few times. Justin Mello of the Draft Network put the Jaguars as one of the three teams that should really or could really be in on this. Just from a speculation standpoint, a connection standpoint, right? So we're going to dive into new GM candidate and the Cooper Kupp trade here today. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. You can also check out genjag.com/shop. Pick up some new Duval gear like the hat I'm wearing right now. So we'll start it with Cooper Kupp and then talk about the GM candidate afterwards. So Cooper Kupp, in his prime, one of the very best receivers that we've seen in a while. Unbelievably productive, super talented in terms of his route running ability, his understanding of the game, his hands, body control, strength, agility. But, is he in his prime anymore? Last couple years, he still looked really good. Still a very, very good player, but maybe not in the peak of his physical prime. He's dealt with injuries. He's dealt with some injuries. So Cooper Kupp has a cap number of $29 million, a little bit over $29 million. The Rams apparently, according to reports, are willing to pay some of his contract down to make it more appealing for a team to potentially trade for him, right? But, the Jaguars, they still have Christian Kirk under contract. And I think Cooper Kupp has more versatility in the way he can be used as an outside receiver than Christian Kirk has shown in Jacksonville, certainly. But they both are primarily guys that line up in the slot. And Christian Kirk, his contract cap number is $24.2 million this year. So they're not coexisting on the same roster. That's for sure. You're not going to have Christian Kirk and Cooper Kupp in Jacksonville, right? If the Jaguars are dead set on having a veteran receiver, on having a Christian Kirk or a Cooper Kupp, or maybe they move on from Christian Kirk, they don't trade for Cooper Kupp, and they try to sign someone, right? If they're dead set on having one of these two guys, though, personally, I would rather have Cooper Kupp in a vacuum. But at what additional cost, right? If you decide you want to go trade for Cooper Kupp, what do you do about Christian Kirk? Is a team going to be willing to trade for Christian Kirk coming off the injury, coming off 2 seasons in which he finished the year on IR? What do the Rams want in return? I don't think that the Rams would be in on trading player for player with Kupp and Kirk. Kirk is a little younger, but he's going to the final year of his deal. I just don't know how that would be, kind of lining up with what the Rams want to do here. The Rams might just do a salary dump and take like a day 3 pick. In this scenario, do you just trade for Cooper Kupp and release Christian Kirk? You have some dead money with Kirk there, but you do save over $10 million against the cap by moving on from Kirk. Again, I think Cooper Kupp is the better player. Both guys have lengthy injury histories. I think you could still argue that Christian Kirk is at the back end of his prime physically. Now, we haven't seen him since his injury, so that's tough to really slam the table for. But if I had to have one in 2025, it would be Cooper Kupp. I would pick Cooper Kupp, just in a vacuum. Again, we don't know what that will cost. We don't know the different opportunity costs. So if you're talking about not spending a whole lot more on Cooper Kupp and not really giving up a lot in a trade. And when I say a lot, I mean nothing more than like, if you're just trading Cooper Kupp for a draft pick, I'm not giving up anything more than a day 3 pick. And I think that's reasonable. But we'll see. I'd be happy with Cooper Kupp on the team because he's a really darn good player, and Liam Cohen has a connection with him, which is why folks around the web have been kind of drawing that connection. He's directly coached Cooper Kupp. He was around Cooper Kupp as a coach for what, 6 years, something like that. They've got a long history together. I'd be happy with Kupp. I'd be happy with Kirk too. Either way, I mean, they're both good receivers. Cooper Kupp is like a top 5 slot receiver in the league still. Christian Kirk is probably top 10. You have to worry about injuries with both of them. I do think Christian Kirk is a very good slot receiver who will be put in way better spots in position to succeed under Liam Cohen than he has the last couple years. But neither of these guys would stop me from going young. Go draft a receiver early. That's what I would do. Whether or not these two are one of these two is on the roster, I would go draft a receiver early. There is no better value in the NFL draft outside of quarterback than getting a talented wide receiver on a rookie deal. Wide receiver has quickly become by far the second highest paid position in the league behind quarterback by a pretty wide margin. Now you can sit here and say, Nick Bosa, he's getting paid almost as much as the top wide receiver. But there's like 6 receivers, and there's going to be more, that are getting paid over $30 million per year. There is only one edge player. And that's the second position behind third position, behind wide receiver and quarterback. So wide receiver on a rookie deal is a massive, massive win from a value perspective, assuming they're very talented and effective, right, in your offense. So that's the direction I would go. I don't have strong feelings whether it's Cooper Kupp or Christian Kirk or just bringing in a young receiver. I mean, you still have Evan Ingram, who can be a target hog, assuming you keep him around, which remains to be seen. I think they should. Britton Strange can handle a lot of targets. Travis Etienne can handle a lot of targets. Brian Thomas Jr. should be getting targeted 10 plus times a game easily, right? So you have a lot of targets to go around already, right? A lot of guys that can take on those targets. If it's me, I'm adding a starting cornerback in free agency. I'm adding a starting guard in free agency, at least one starting safety, a depth edge player. And then, early on in the draft, it's wide receiver, it's offensive line, it's interior defensive line. Then I'm also looking at, after that, and it's got to match up with the value. This is just kind of how I look at this draft, this specific draft. I think that if you're able to go, depending on how things play out, we don't know until draft day, and you have to stay water, you have to stay fluid and be able to kind of roll with the punches here and adjust to how the board's falling. But if the Jaguars were able to go offensive line and wide receiver in the first 2 rounds in some order, and then go interior defensive line, because I think interior defensive line is incredibly deep. I think in the 3rd round, you will get a starting caliber player. And let's not forget, Eric Armstead moving inside is a big deal. Mason Smith going into year 2 is a big deal. Now, again, that's not stopping me from spending day 2 capital on another one of these guys because it is a deep class. And I think day 2 is going to be the area where you can really strike gold on an interior defensive lineman potentially. Now, if they go IDL in the first and then offensive line and wide receiver after that, that's fine too. But those are the positions that I'm prioritizing early. Then you talk about cornerback. Right now, you look at the roster and you say that's the biggest need. But I think the Jaguars should be spending some money at cornerback this offseason, whether it is with Charvarius Ward, DJ Reed, Paulson Adebo, Carlton Davis. Like, the Jaguars need to go get a legitimate number or starting corner, not number 1. I think Tyson Campbell has done enough for me. I know not everybody feels that way to call him the number one corner right now, but I think you go do that and you're in a better situation. You sign a safety, as I mentioned. You draft a safety. You also draft a tight end. You also draft a running back. Tight end and running back are the two deepest positions in this class. Interior defensive line is very deep as well. I think wide receiver and offensive line, those are the ones, if you want to go into the draft and say we should probably get these guys pretty early, first 2 days of the draft, I think those are the two spots you really want to make sure you get early. I think interior defensive line on day 2 of the draft as well. When it comes to corner, I think this is a class where there's a lot of guys that maybe are going to be more scheme specific, more stylistic, defensive specific. So again, that's how I'm looking at it. And this is getting way away from the Cooper Kupp trade. But all this to say, there is nothing stopping me, even if you have Cooper Kupp or Christian Kirk on this roster, from getting a wide receiver early. Because, look, Kupp and Kirk, either or, they're probably not on the roster a long time. They're just probably not. Now, getting to this GM search, Josh Williams from the San Francisco 49ers has been added to the search. The Jaguars have requested to interview him, and the Jaguars have requested to interview a number of guys. Mike Greenberg dropped out. There's a little bit of rumors and stuff going on around the internet with what might have happened with the Bucks not wanting him to interview with the Jaguars. You can go find that yourself. It's speculation and rumors, so I'm not really going to get into it. But Mike Greenberg dropped out from Tampa. You've got Brown from the Giants, who's the assistant GM. You've got Trey Brown from the Cincinnati Bengals, who's a personnel executive. You've got Chad Alexander from the Los Angeles Chargers, the assistant GM. You've got Ian Cunningham from the Bears, the assistant GM. You've got Ethan Waugh from the Jaguars, formerly of the 49ers, and now Josh Williams of the 49ers. So they're having an expansive search here for their next general manager. There's no question about that. And Williams, just some background on him. He's in his 14th season with the 49ers. So, yeah, he came in 2011 under Trent Baalke as an assistant in the 49ers scouting department. He was promoted to pro personnel scout 2 seasons later in 2013. He was in that role for 3 years till 2015. In 2016, he was named the team's national football scouting representative. And then 2017 to 2021, he was an area scout. And then 2022 to 2023, he was a national scout. And this past year, he is the director of scouting and football operations for the San Francisco 49ers. An extensive history with the 49ers who, I think Trent Baalke started out really well drafting, doing some good things, hit a little bit of a lull. Coaching, it is what it is. And then after Baalke and all those coaches that he had in San Fran, they moved on from him. They moved in the direction of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. They've drafted well there to an extent. I don't know how involved Kyle Shanahan is or isn't in kind of making some of these picks, and they've missed on some picks. They've hit on some picks. Overall, I do think that the 49ers are an organization, though, that you can find a lot of respect for. And Josh Williams being with the 49ers, that's great. I mean, that's an organization that has had a lot of success. But it's going to be more about how he interviews. It's going to be more about how he presents his plan to the Jaguars, for being a general manager. I don't know a ton about him yet. We'll continue to dive into all these guys and learn more about them. And, hopefully this search is wrapped up fairly quickly, right? It's Wednesday, February 5th. The Jaguars Shad Khan stated they want to get this done by February 28th, the end of the month at the very latest. So we'll see if it ends up taking that long. My guess is it won't, but we'll see for the Jacksonville Jaguars who their general manager ends up being moving forward. Part of that football triumvirate at the top with Tony Baselli, the EVP, Liam Cohen, the head coach, and whoever the new GM is. They will be horizontally aligned. All three will report directly to Shad Khan. That's kind of how it's looking for your Jaguars. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. You can also check out ginjag.com/shop. Pick up some new Duval gear like the hat I am wearing right now. Y'all have a good one.